Hello, everyone. I'm Sherry Cook Stanforth. I'm the managing editor of Pine Mountain Sand and Gravel, and we are all so excited to be here today. The first thing I want to say is thank you so much to the Appalachian Studies Association for creating the impossible. How could it be that we're all scattered far and wide, but yet together? We are excited to be able to share readings from Appalachian Edge. This is the most recent volume of Pine Mountain Sand and Gravel. This literary magazine has been in existence since the mid-70s, and it was co-founded by Jim and Rob Webb. Through many decades, it has glued the region together, created a movement around our region's literature. So we feel very proud to represent this today. I will say briefly, too, there is a call that is still open if people are gathered with us today out of excitement for this journal. We're still looking for your great prose and poetry, so send it in to us. We'll start the readings. We have quite a lineup today to give you a flavor of this year's volume, and our first reader is Kari Gunter-Seymour. She has a new poetry collection out called A Place So Deep Inside America It Can't Be Seen. And she also wrote a poem in support of families living in poverty in Athens County, Ohio. It went viral and it was seen by over 100,000 people, resulting in thousands of dollars donated to her local food pantry. She's the founder, executive director of the Women of Appalachia Project. She is the 2020 Ohio Poet of the Year. And as an Ohioan in Appalachia, I'm very proud to say that she is also the Ohio Poet Laureate, our sister of state. So I turn the floor over to Kari.
Daughter-in-law mine, once removed. There is a wall on the U.S.-Mexico border made of surplus steel and wire mesh. 1,000 miles worth, backyards and alleys in Chula Vista as far up as Temecula. Children stand on our side and poke tiny fingers against those hardly even holes for the slightest brush of their grandmother's fingers, pressed inward from the Tijuana side. I saw it in Time magazine and cried. My own fingers urgent, the iciness of your Colorado standoff rigid as anything man-made. Surely you remember this rich Ohio soil, ripe to bursting, water pure, pastures plush. A woman can make her way here. I don't care about the details, who was right, who should have gotten what but didn't. I don't mind that you'll never love again and hell's to pay. I care that my body has gone to wrinkle and the world to concrete and convenience. Tractors traded for fracking augers. Though this parcel will never fall long as I can steady a shotgun. With no partner but a wall to cling to, what's balled up can only bounce back. Raised without old ways, a granddaughter might never make out why her body aches for seed and trowel. Rifling National Geographic, it came to me to send this telescope, highly recommended for its ability to reflect. Along with the moon and stars, help her please to look south of Lake Erie by way of the Appalachians, then east by southeast. Tell her that's her grandmother, top of Beck's knob, waving a white hanky. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kari, for that beautiful reading. Our next reader is Omope Carter Daboiku, and she grew up in southern Ohio, Rivertown of Ironton. I hope I'm saying that correctly, Omope. Her writing focuses on the intersectionality of place, identity, and belonging, and the experiences of growing up a mixed-race colored child, as she puts it, on the Appalachian landscape. After 30 years in Cincinnati, she now resides in Dayton, where she enjoys 5 rivers but has found no hills worth climbing at all.
This is in honor of disappearing wild places. Lessons from the edge of Appalachia. 10 tiny 4-year-old steps from my house. The land between two shotguns gets no direct light except at noon. I run my small fingers around the edges of fire bricks that define a shadow garden. Lifting them from the soft, moist dirt and grass, I find pill bugs, worms, and dewdrops hiding. This becomes my secret hiding place, my refuge. At 6, school bus rides along winding roads with wildflowers hugging the edges take me past pasture land where my daddy and uncles herded dairy cows in their youth. Out Route 141 beyond the edge of town to Edmondson's farm. The day camp meeting house has a tree growing right up the middle. We laugh and pretend it's Jack's beanstalk. The creek there is filled with minnows and crawdads. My grandfather gives lessons about birds, bees, seeds, and the union of all creation. He teaches me that everything we do creates ripples rolling out in concentric circles from the source, affecting our unseen future. He introduces me to the plant people who heal us. At 9, I ponder the hill. Before dynamite blew it apart to create a shortcut between Chicago and southern beaches, the sandstone bluff defined the northern edge of town, shifting from sort of a city to the really rural county where children wait in tall wooden sheds for the bus that will carry them to school. I walk 4 so-called city blocks to mine. At 10, I achieved the same rite of passage as my daddy did. I find a snake stick longer than I am tall, peel it, and carve in my initials. One Saturday, after polishing my mother's house, I am dismissed to roam from 8th Street to 10th at the foot of the hill. Climbing zigzag the slope behind the armory and orphanage is relatively easy. I know the trail. I've gone up with others older than myself. This time, I travel alone. A brown penny sack holds a boiled egg and PB&J sandwich for energy. The canvas-covered metal canteen slung across my chest is filled with icy water, enough to carry me up and back. In summer heat, I enjoy the cold radiating on my hip and learn to swish the liquid against the edge of my throat, careful not to drink too much so I can remain decent in public. I do not perspire in the delicate daughter feminine. Climbing strenuously, I sweat like a working man. Up I go, over the tunnel on Route 93, an old Underground Railroad track, and the way to Vesuvius furnace that clad old Ironsides in the Civil War. Pedro, the home of musician Bobby Bear, and the runaway rendezvous called Black Fork. I climb all the way to the flat rock where an anonymous somebody has carved the initials J.R. Feeling satisfied and accomplished, I sit with feet dangling and gaze over the edge of my town, past the edges of the Ohio River into Kentucky. Watching barges ply the greasy ribbon of water, I enjoy my success and think about how far my people have come and contemplate how far I will go. Filled with possibilities, I come down, expertly dodging bushes, branches, and briars. With home in sight, I drink until thirst is quenched. I hear my inner self tell me that I have passed the test. I have conquered the hill all by myself. I do not know then that I am one of the last to do so.
Thank you so much, Omope. I'm giving you a toast of my morning coffee. I've known Omope for many years. So I'm getting a gesture that I can't be heard, but I'm unmuted.
I can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you too.
Okay, some folks are saying I can't hear.
I can hear you fine.
Okay. Well, I hope you can hear me because I'm moving into my own reading here. I mentioned who I am. I'm Sherry Cook Stanforth, the co-editor of Pine Mountain Sand and Gravel. I am the director of creative writing vision at Thomas More University. I love to write in all areas. I have a lot of educational outreach program designs out there, and I have a book of poetry called Drone String and a recent anthology inspired by the Ohio River. I play in a 3-generation family band, and it's still moving along even as some of the generations die off, and I raise bees. That should be enough about me. I'll share a piece in this edition that was inspired by some of the experiences that we have had over the last 4 years. And there's an echo at the beginning that says, nobody came close to breaching the fence. If they had, they would have been greeted with the most vicious dogs and most ominous weapons I have ever seen. And that came from Twitter on May 30th, 2020. And this poem is called Dog Days. Graham sometimes recalled her dog who wandered into a North Georgia potato field, maybe or maybe not, to nose around Shope's henhouse door. Everyone claimed they was such godly folks, but I never did believe it, she'd say, telling how she found the poisoned, bloated carcass bobbing in Brasstown Bald's currents. They denied any guilt, the woman wiping her hand on her apron, and he hiding in the shadows, saying, you gotta enforce the rules. Unchecked, dogs will bust right into the bacon, spoil your bean pot, soil a flower garden, steal just about every scrap you got. Might bite them you love. Proverbs say they'll even bite your own feeding hand. They preached from behind their screen door into the honey locust air. She grew up down south where venturesome dogs earned a plate of poison or buckshot in the ass, or got hung in honest fashion to be pecked clean by unbroken circles of turkey vultures. Later, she moved north where dogs still found trouble, but it got covered up or buried under white crosses of forgiveness, for they know not what they did. No matter, dogs off leash might just end up dead in worse places than a Blue Ridge Creek. Even these days, a man may crush a dog for the right reasons, performing evil for the sake of democracy. It takes a worried man with the gate to lock. Keeping order, they say, is no easy job. To truly help, you must shut your eyes and ears to all that ruckus of howling and pounding and boring down. Close your mouths. Wait. Communion in the shining kingdom will come, delivering justice, bodies, and blood for all. So my grandfather, actually, I learned my great-grandfather used to help people of color escape Blairsville, Georgia, early on in times of distress, worried for their lives. So I was glad to hear a little bit of that story from my grandma before she passed away. I'm happy now to share an introduction for Hilda Downer, a dear friend. She grew up in Bandana in the North Carolina mountains. She has an MFA from Vermont College and has published poetry and essays in journals and anthologies. 2 books of poetry out. They're beautiful, by the way. She's retired from teaching in English at Appalachian State University and works as a psychiatric nurse near Roanoke, Virginia. Hilda's been a member of the Southern Appalachian Writers Cooperative for many, many years. Hilda.
Can you see me?
We see a beautiful little smiley face button, but we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Huh, interesting. Camera on. Tech person. It was working till I turned it off. Well, so you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Interesting. Let's see. Sorry, I was just trying to do the video. I don't. I'll go ahead and read then. First, I wanted to express thanks to ASA for this reading, and also my appreciation for the editors and contributors of PMS&G, and also, of course, SAWC. Both the publication and SAWC fulfill their mission, which is to encourage, support, and publicize the work of members and friends, and they truly do this. My poem is Beggar's Lice. Beggar's lice must be picked off with fingers determined as crowbars, Velcro seed pods attached singular or in rows, a bivouac of army green, irritating as orange rickrack that requires tedious removal from the hem of a white dress. Such a small nuisance on sheets off the clothesline should not cause tears. Over windows painted shut in a Troy, New York apartment. When only one window opens, that is the one to jump out of, to take all fear and pain at once. However, a word like a railway switch, a straight metal ladder led down the wall to a roof 1 story below, across hurdles separating other roofs, and down some steps to an oasis of potted plants and jovial adults. There were maybe 10 of them, wanting to know all about me. How did a 10-year-old girl appear out of nowhere? They offered to take me home. I didn't know which way to go, to get back to Bandana, to the mountains of North Carolina. Then I had to tell them I'd been taken away by a man. I would hear kidnapped later. I know Beggar's Lice is just trying its best to live, to grab onto any hope to continue its species. But I fight against being held down by scratchy seeds, ropes, or knife ambushes in the dark. The threat of being dumped in the woods did not scare me. I loved the woods. I could find the woods. I could not find the words. Is there any use in writing this even now? I am afraid of heights. A leap of faith is breathing air that cannot be looked into. Hakilia virginiana, beggar's lice, stickweed, or stickseed, belongs to the bean family, nutritious for deer and quail. God had a purpose for me, someone said. After revisions ripped from the perforation, a row of triangles like that of beggar's lice can be plucked from the rings of a notebook to fashion into a flimsy picture frame, or a key to unlock a paper tower. I stack them until they fall into rows like eternal prayer of a Blue Ridge Parkway view, where I find my escape, no longer stuck at the end of the line. Thank you.
Thank you, Hilda, for that beautiful reading. Our next reader is Dana Wildsmith. She has 5 poetry collections, and her most recent one is One Light from Texas Review Press. She has a novel called Jumping, which I've read, very powerful, concerns border and migration issues, inspired from her work with non-native speakers. She also has a memoir called Back to Abnormal, Surviving an Old Farm in the New South, with an old farm in the New South. And she was a finalist for the Georgia Author of the Year through that book. She's a fellow of the Cambridge Center for Creative Arts and Sciences, and she teaches English literacy at Lanier, Georgia Technical College. Dana.
Thanks.
Sorry, there's no video. This is what happens when you let IT run amok in your classroom while you're on spring break. But as to channel Jim Webb, I'll just go on without myself. Seam ripper. I've given them as gifts. Those lovely ones with hand-turned, chubby handles veined in orange and scarlet from a craft shop with a range of tools made pretty. I'm not making fun. It pleases me to mix utility with beauty. But the one I keep for my own use is plastic, brown, and homely. Why? Because my grandmother made quilts, and she told me 10 stitches to the inch was her intent. 8 or 9 was sloppy work. She'd rip right out, she said. I never saw her use her plastic seam ripper. Small and careful holes, she said. Stitch to bind the first time. Watch your needle. Take your time.
Thank you, Dana. And we'll keep this theme with Kate Fox, who will now read. Her work has appeared in the Great River Review, New Ohio Review, Crow Online, West Branch, and Pleiades, among others. Her chapbook is called The Lazarus Method, and it was published by Kent State University Press in the Wick Poetry Chapbook series. Another chapbook, Walking Off the Map, was published by Seven Kitchens Press in Cincinnati, Ohio. That is a great name for a press, Kate. She lives in Athens, Ohio, and works as a writer-editor for Textual Healing, another amazing title. Kate, will you grace us with a reading?
I will try, yes, being a Luddite that I am. Can you hear me, everyone? No?
Yes,
Okay.
We can hear and see you.
Fantastic. Well, first, I just want to send greetings from the late Bob Fox. He'd have been so pleased to see this. So he was just amazed with the Cincinnati contingent of poets and artists. So we think of him this morning, and also my dear friend Donna Spencer, whose grandmother I did borrow for this poem. So it's called My Grandmother Attends the Athens Quilt National, 1979. In her world, the fabric recovers what it once clothed, garments stained or worn so thin that she had to salvage the best with scissors, then rock the treadle to piece corduroy, to wool, to flannel, in a starburst that, like a wood fire, warms 3 times. Nothing frivolous, nothing fancy, except for a burial quilt, too bleak to abide, that she edged in lace and pearl buttons taken from the baptismal dress. Under Do Not Touch, she fingers a manatee's taffeta fins, the tessellated cape of a matador, and finally a school of Escher fish that shifts into a skein of geese as the pattern moves from sea to sky. You know, they've done what they can, she finally says, but these quilts aren't nothing but art.
I love that piece.
I love
Thank
that
you.
line.
I'm sure that's a found poem. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So Ohio is making a fairly big showing in this reading today. I'm happy to also introduce a dear friend, Chiquita Mullins Lee. She lives in Columbus and she works for the Ohio Arts Council. Catco premiered Pierce to the Soul, her play about folk artist Elijah Pierce. She also won the Creative Writing Individual Artist Excellence Award from OAC and the Greater Columbus Arts Council. Congratulations for that, Chiquita. Her writing has been published in Fifth Wednesday, The Moon Magazine, Falling Star Magazine, and other journals. Chiquita writes and performs with Wild Women Writing and leads Word Warriors at New Covenant Believers Church. Chiquita, take us away. Chiquita, you're muted. Chiquita, can you start again?
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So as I was saying, when I thought I was unmuted before, I'm happy to be here with you this morning. Thank you, Sherry, for the invitation. And I'm just grateful to all the folks at Pine Mountain Sand and Gravel and Pauletta and all of you. And I'm grateful. I'm feeling really grateful this morning. So my piece is called City Limits. Ever notice how people move in and out of love, hurt, loss, and grief? Folks scatter to unexpected destinations. Odd named places pour out broken patches of people. From the West End where Mama grew up, Summer Hill, a dead-end district with a lyrical name, Mechanicsburg, a frightening place to be at night, Avondale, a country haven beyond the city's edges. From all these places, people landed in a heap on the northwest side of Atlanta, alongside a major artery named Bankhead Highway, Route 138, a 20-minute drive from the Chattahoochee River and its tributaries that fed Allatoona Lake, where you picnicked when you were 5. Bowen Homes, Perry Homes, Grady Homes, Herndon Homes, and Carver Homes were housing projects and no money neighborhoods. Same with Mechanicsburg, Buttermilk Bottom, Techwood, Summer Hill, Dixie Hills. Pick a neighborhood and certain images sprung to mind. Shingled and broken shuttered shotguns, 1- and 2-story boxes of broken brick and glass, havens for little brown, ashy, nappy, sometimes happy babies having babies. Black folks with money lived in places called Collier Heights and Cascade Heights, in comfortable split-level homes, in single-story ranches with yards, 3 bedrooms and glittered walls, heights. Everything was something heights. Even scholar W.E.B. Du Bois called Atlanta, Georgia, the city of 1,000 hills. Up and down all over Atlanta, hills, valleys, curves, and heights, Atlanta had them all. As the capital of Southern hospitality, Atlanta claimed city status, though clusters of folks within the city had country roots, having been born and reared beyond the city limits. Folks moved from the country and often landed in projects, in Bowen Homes, with its scattering of pink brick buildings, 6 apartments in each, its bedrooms on the 2nd floor, kitchen and pantry and living room on the 1st. Every 2 apartments shared a clothesline, a patio, and hiding the patios were 3 side-by-side, 7-foot-high colored concrete walls. Your walls were yellow. Other walls were red, blue, or green. The pattern cast a attractive echo throughout the neighborhood. If somebody lived in a building with the same colored patio wall as you claimed instant affinity. You remembered people by the colors. You live in the blue building. Chiquita Banana lived in the yellow building. Now that was a Southern accent. Actually, somebody had a clever idea. A fully contained Black community sliced out of the hip of Bankhead Highway in the shadow of Kennesaw Mountain. Rounded along the horseshoe shape of Wilk Circle, Bowen Homes might have been a half-mile long and just as wide. The entrance, Yates Boulevard, anchored both ends of Wilk Circle and held 2-story buildings of garden apartments that housed the elders. A nursery stood across from an elementary school for grades kindergarten through 7, where they taught you and your classmates to square dance. Grocery stores were a long way away. Handy Pantry, which became 7-Eleven, was convenient. Further down, a little store sold Smiling Jack's cookies, 2 for a penny. Mary Jane's, squirrel nut zippers, baked Boston baked beans, Fireballs, Red Hots were your candy favorites. Huge dill pickles, 15 cents each, floated in a giant jar of vinegar. White and red boxes of Argo starch satisfied the cravings of pregnant women. And there were always rumors about who was pregnant. I live in Bowen Homes. The words rolled past our lips like ice cream from a cone, like Slurpees through a straw, or Coca-Cola from a green curvaceous bottle. Bowen Homes was the newest project in mid-1960s Atlanta, and it was tidy and energized with young girls and boys who lingered in its paved, sultry streets. And there was tension in the projects, something grabbing at you, magnetism, attraction, the gaze, lips parted, a quick, wet tongue darting across. Then those husky words, "I like the way you carry yourself." What did that mean? You had no idea, but you liked it when they'd say it. There was so much to think about. Who you liked, how you looked, how you lived, schoolwork and being smart. There were no slouches in your group. You and your girls had diverse gifts. Linda was a brainiac, you were too. Anne, Brenda, and Boo Boo could dance like magic, improvising on the spot. Cheryl Behind could sing her behind off, and so could Sheila Green. Brenda and Christine tied for Miss Personality. Linda and Brenda, the twins, and their younger sisters, Anne and Boo Boo, lived in Avondale or spent summers there, or somewhere else north, east, west, or south of Atlanta, far from the expressway and skyscrapers. Lots of folks went to the country for summer and spent steamy days with cousins and grandmamas, aunties, and when they came back, they brought the country with them. Scars from mosquito bites after long nights in Avondale air. Language and phrases of convenient contractions that melted from the mouth like a slow drag. Y'all, sure enough. No, how you doing? You learned how to talk proper at school and in mama's presence, but with boo-boo them, you caught the rhythms and inflections that fit you in with the home folk. From summers in the country, they brought tales about boys. One thing you had in common, boys came first. After TV, fun teachers, pretty teachers, mean teachers, strict teachers, clothes, new shoes, zodiac signs, the latest dance, the newest record, how to wear hair ornaments, hair grease that made your hair grow, socks that made your legs look bigger, and stories about who got beat up in the neighborhood, boys came first. It would have been different if you'd been the only one. If only one girl was the fast girl in the whole neighborhood. All the girls liked boys, talked about boys, dreamed about boys, played girlhood games with jump ropes and bolo bats, and with every bounce, named the boys they would marry. Everybody did it. Love was a regular topic at playtime. You lost your love for dolls, jackstones, bolo bats, and hopscotch. Never could work a yo-yo. The thing just dangled stupid at the end of the string. Knit, sew, crochet, no way. Couldn't afford needles nor yarn. But you could play hide and go seek for free. Finger the grass and find four-leaf clovers. Sit on the black rail above concrete walls and sing supreme songs. Giggle about the crush you had. Daydream at night. You liked the angle of the shoulders on one boy, or with another, you liked the dip in the dap of his walk, or that one's long eyelashes, or the dimples in that one's cheek. And if he was bow-legged or pigeon-toed and tried to run, all y'all just blushed. When God made man, he decided early that he should not be alone. Bowen Homes was 1,000,000 miles from Eden, but every male child there claimed rights, as Adam did, to bone of his bone and flesh of his flesh. Bowen Homes was full of boys who were full of themselves, full of spunk and muscle tuned to a hum. In clusters, they prowled for some sweet scent flowering the air. Fine women lived in Bowen Homes. Fine young women, every one of y'all pulsated with woman strength that reached back across Middle Passage waters with authority from thighs that marched you forward. Breasts young and high, head steady, direct, and ready to take it on, whatever it was, fight or flirtation. With the boys radiated in energy, the girls matched in power. Bowen Homes was like a nuclear reactor of raw, untapped sexual energy. Nobody knew who was doing it or just talking, but the energy was charged and the air vibrated with curious notions about what men and women did together in the dark, in private, under covers. Even in the classroom or on the playground, eyes twitched with itchy curiosity to catch a glimpse under somebody's dress, past the white cotton of an open fly, through the open curtains in an open window. Nosy, yes, about what boys and girls were not supposed to do, but were really interested in trying if you weren't scared. Rumors abounded in Bowen Homes. You could be a virgin with a straight A report card and somebody would get in your face and say they heard you were a hoe. There was a story of Clarine at 14 in the car with 3 boys a few years older who drove her to Burger King, bought her a Whopper, Whaler, and fries and had their way with her. 12-year-old Yvonne was a spiteful gossip and the first one to come up pregnant. These were the rumors we could never confirm. The hard thing about those girls, though, we never saw them again. You wanted sweet romance. You had your moment. Michael was the first boy you ever kissed in August at age 12, standing in the doorway with him, nobody else around, and he held you in his arms and touched his lips to yours. Just lips together, locked for a long time, as innocent as a sweet dream. No groping, no follow through, just sweet first kiss. Sugar, spice, and everything nice. There were girls who fit that description and stayed in their houses avoiding the deluge, remembering that sugar melts in the rain of passion, brass, and sass will storm your heart and melt you right away. Snips, snails, puppy dog tails, every mannish boy in Bowen Homes, every single one. Ghost Eye, Dee Dee, Tony, and Jerry lived apart and you flirted with at least 3 of them. You could see the snips and snails and tails in every one of those nasty boys. They scared you crazy and drew you in. The idea of what could happen, dreams and possibilities, was enough to keep you open-minded and flirtatious, though you gagged when one tried to kiss you with an open mouth and hid by yourself and not with a boy doing hide and go seek, and ran home to your mama if the wrong one got too close. You were curious about everything. And by age 13, boys were the most interesting things close by. Mama kept you focused, kept you in steady conversation about everything you did. She sat you down and said, you can talk to me about anything. Made sure you weren't creating secrets and acting them out when her back was turned. She had plans for you. They included her dreams for a better life. Bowen Homes was just a stopover. Mama dreamed of heights, Collier Heights, Cascade Heights. Folks with long hair and long automobiles and long money lived in homes this big in neighborhoods that ended in heights. These were the places you rode through with your sister, Mama, and her friend Carolyn, who wondered about what kind of work afforded the real estate, salaries, and luxuries you discerned from inside a passing car. Carolyn would ask, what do they do, Dorothy? What do they do? These were the lawyers, doctors, teachers, preachers, restaurateurs, and merchants who populated Black Atlanta. These were not the people who lived in Bowen Homes. Dorothy and her children, Chiquita and Cheryl, lived in Bowen Homes. Dorothy worked at Mackey's Southern Vending, where she'd been promoted to supervisor because she performed steadily, consistently, and landed a better job in merchandising at the Kroger district office. Dorothy, a preacher's niece, had been raised as a preacher's kid in a 2-story brick house on Ashby Street in the West End. She had been a homeowner, gone to college, married a preacher, birthed his daughter. They lasted 2 years. She married again. His name was Charles. Lasted maybe 4 years and produced her second daughter. She sold her Victorian house on Ashby Street in hopes of buying a modern home. But trouble led from Ashby Street to Dixie Hills, where times were strange, and once or twice without gas or electricity. Separated from Charles, Mama moved us and herself to Westchester Boulevard. They soon reunited and moved together in a cramped 2-bedroom basement apartment with ugly exposed pipes in the bathroom. The windows leaked rain and Mama could cover the wet floor with newspaper. Things changed again and you learned another new word, divorce. Divorce divides more than families. It sends shattered parties in strange directions. It ends people up in peculiar places. Mama heard about a new housing project with affordable rent and an approval process. A lady came to inspect where you were living, and Mama, since she had to work, had briefed you on what to say. You took the lady through the house, told her about the leaky windows and the gas heater you had to stick a match into to ignite. Next thing, y'all were moving. From these places and memories and detours, you landed in Bowen Homes, an unexpected destination of divided purposes amidst the gentle slopes and hard edges of the urban South. This homeland was as hard as asphalt, as green and sunny as a southern dream. Clover grew thick beneath skinny young trees, concrete floors, no rugs ran cold, just a stopover. Mama never meant to be there long, and she didn't intend for even 1 ounce of that environment to seep into you. She intended to take her girls out of the projects and keep the projects out of her girls. Thank you.
Thank you, Chiquita. It's a full sensory immersion with that amazing piece. Thank you. I mentioned early that the Pine Mountain Sand and Gravel Journal is connected to the Southern Appalachian Writers Cooperative. So we are always looking to embrace people from all over the region, new writers and experienced writers to join this literary circle. So I just wanted to give another shout out for that. And if you're interested in buying the journal, you can reach out through, if you type in Southern Appalachian Writers Cooperative, the SAWC online website will come up. And the journal is put out by Dos Madres Press. Robert Murphy and Elizabeth Murphy do a beautiful job. So just a little plug for our journal as we move on to John Thomas York, who grew up on a farm in Yadkin County, northwestern North Carolina. He has degrees from Wake Forest and Duke and an MFA in creative writing from UNC Greensboro. His poetry has appeared widely, and he has published 4 poetry collections, including Cold Spring Rising, which came out in 2012, and he will now sing us into the next state. John.
Thank you, Sherry. Can you hear me, Sherry? All right. I'm reading a poem you can find on page 165 if you have the magazine. If you look on that page, you can see the poem is The Charge. It's dedicated to Doc and Merle Watson. This is an excerpt called Looking Down That Lonesome Road. You can also see that Doc died in 2012, Merle in 1985, 27 years before his father. Doc often said that he disliked going on the road. He must have really hated it when he first started, a blind man traveling alone. The poem describes 6 scenes from Doc's life. I'll pause between each. Looking down that lonesome road. You're by yourself at a bus terminal, a hungry man sickened by diesel fumes. The driver gave you a sandwich back in Virginia. You stand in a tide of strange voices, the New Yorkers babbling in tongues, you waiting for a hand to guide you through the honking streets or to steal your guitar and push you into the river. You taste your breakfast during takeoff, feeling like you're climbing a steep mountain, riding in a rattling pickup truck on the rocky road to hell, ulcers burning as if your stomach is smoking a pack of cigarettes. And you land in a place where the sidewalk is so hot, perdition must be only a few steps away. You're on the road after a concert, sitting listening to Eddie Arnold on the radio, and you hear a girl's voice coming from Merle's room, and it can't be his wife laughing. And you know that in the morning your son will smell of weed, wine, sex. And then after Merle died under a tractor, there came Jonah's great fish. It swallowed the house. And for the first time, you knew complete darkness. You sank into a pit that smelled like asphalt. Until Merle's hand came down, reaching, taking yours, his right hand pulling you up. You could feel his long fingernails. He told you, go back to the road, play for me. And so you played. Even the next week, played for years, always missing his banjo, his slide guitar by your side, the arm that led you to your chair, to your rest. Somebody else took you to your room. And your bed felt like a raft, riding over the deep. You felt the muscular circling of the monster, always waiting. It already knew the taste of your flesh.
Thank you so much, John. Very intense work. We appreciate you so much. Pam Hirschler studied creative writing at Morehead State University and received her MFA in poetry from Drew University. Her poetry and reviews have appeared in Still, the Journal, Tupelo Quarterly, and other journals. Her first poetry chapbook is What Lies Beneath. It came out from Finishing Line Press in 2019. And I would be remiss if I didn't say this. Pine Mountain Sand and Gravel ain't coming out without Pam Hirschler. She has done so much from behind the scenes to make this journal go over the last few years. So Pam, we appreciate all of your administrative support very much.
Thank you, Sue. I'm very happy to be here, and thank you for organizing us all, herding these cats and those sorts of things. My poem is titled The Trail. The acrophobic boy hugged the rock wall to leave a wide space from the trail's edge. Courage in the midst of terror, he persisted, inched up the steep path, earned the unwanted prize of the peak, could not look at the beauty below, then faced the prospect of the return. His name is hidden in childhood memory, his features obscured, but his almost black hair with its whirl at the crown, his scrawny, pale body arms and legs, knobby and shorts and t-shirt, are so clear to me I could paint them on canvas. I do not know why he was on that journey or why I was there to observe. Was it some test of will, some cleansing ritual, some baptism of fire? I can still sing the soft words, the murmuring of the mother. Just one more step now, just one. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Jessica Cory teaches English in the English department at Western Carolina University. She is the editor of Mountain Piled Upon Mountains, Appalachian Nature Writing in the Anthropocene, forgive me. It came out from WVU Press in 2019. Her work has been featured in A Poetry Congeries, Ellipses, and Menacing Hedge, among other journals. My tongue got tied on that, Jessica, forgive me.
I think I also forgot to put in there that I'm actually also from Southern Ohio, so feeling some Ohio solidarity with many of you this morning. I also just wanted to add, this poem I'm about to read does involve heroin and needles, in case that's a trigger for any of you, or just want to kind of give people a heads up in case they needed to shut their speakers off. It's called You Always Lose at Horse. Our 2-month-old son glides in his Graco swing. I read him a book of farm animals. Hen, cow, rooster, horse. You're holed up again behind our tiny bathroom door waiting for your dealer. You can't shoot yourself up, always have been afraid of needles. He arrives, I let him in. He tosses his shoulder-length dark hair, shoots, me and the baby a grin. He's getting big. Later, you and I joke about how people think dope addicts are all lonely and sad. You cradle his carrier in the crook of your left elbow and surmise they really should redesign these things so they don't scrape fresh track marks. It was hard to afford a newborn and an addiction. You bought bags in bulk for the discount, like some sort of junkie couponista. Last I heard, you're sober, still surviving in your hometown, but cell-bound. Your father said I should find a way back for you in my life. I said no, even if you were on the upswing. He's 3 now. Today he found his baby book, my first 4 years. His long legs dangle beside mine from the porch swing as I read, this is Nana, this is Pop, and this is the man who wanted to be your dad. Turn the page, and this is the man who is. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. That is a wow piece. We appreciate it. Bonnie Proudfoot resides in Athens, Ohio. She received a fellowship for the arts from the West Virginia Department of Culture and History. Her fiction and poetry are published in Gettysburg Review, Kestrel, Quarter After 8, among others. Juried readings include the Women of Appalachia events. Her first novel, Goshen Road, was published by Swallow Press, Ohio University Press in 2020. And I just finished Goshen Road. It is a wow book. So I'm putting in a little plug for that book. Bonnie.
Thank you, Sherry. Thank you to the ASA and, of course, Pine Mountain Sand and Gravel. And what a beautiful journal this is. Oh, it's just gorgeous and awful wonderful work, as I'm sure you can tell. Well, I'm reading this poem on a gorgeous, almost spring day. And I'm sorry to say that this poem is going to take us back to December. I used to live up a hollow at the end of the hollow surrounded by mountains on kind of 270 degrees, and it was north facing, so we had daylight approximately from 10 o'clock in the morning until about 3 in the afternoon on a sunny day. And this poem channels December in that terrain, Wetzel County, West Virginia. It's called News from the Edge of the World, and it's written in the form of a pantoum. Winter again, and drops of ice crystallizing on barren branches. No sun for days. The light lingers indigo. Snow squalls that flurry and quit, crystallizing on barren branches. These emphatic pointers to time's passage. Snow squalls that flurry and quit. How do I know where I am? These emphatic pointers to time's passage, moments in a life, increments and indictments. How do I know where I am? I live at the edge of the world. Moments in a life, increments and indictments. Dogs drag bones down from the woods. I live at the edge of the world. The yard is littered with shards. Dogs drag bones down from the woods, frozen scaffolding, parts without meaning. The yard is littered with shards, the thigh, the shin, the scapula, frozen scaffolding, parts without meaning. Which is more real, memory or invention? The thigh, the shin, the scapula, I claim it. It is all me. Which is more real, memory or invention? Winter again, and drops of ice. I claim it. It is all me. No sun for days. The light lingers indigo. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie, for your pantoum with its haunting and spiraling echoes. I'm holding up Pine Mountain Sand and Gravel again, since we're not in the room together, just to show off the outside of the journal. One of the unique things about the Southern Appalachian Writers Cooperative, after all of the decades, is the gatherings that occur. People who submit to the journal often agree to host a reading in, an area where they live. So pop-up readings are happening all over the region with this journal, and we'll do so again soon. I have my fingers crossed and have high hopes. My next person to introduce is Ann Shurgin. She became a SAWC member in 2001 while in Tennessee after her father's death. An Elizabethtown, or Elizabethtown, depending on where you come from. She's a native there, and she lived in Southeast Texas for many years, where she worked as a newspaper reporter, a freelance writer and editor, and communication specialist. She was also active in the Houston poetry community, and she returned home to the mountains after her retirement. It's a lot of geography, Anne.
Yes. Thank you, Sherry. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. This poem is called The Stones. You and I turned earth together for 15 years, planted trees, built porches, raised our children. Around the house, you kept a border of stones from all the places our searching took us. The Superior Shoreline, Sycamore Shoals in Tennessee, a river we slept beside in Colorado, and 100 more. I knew that a stone from Appalachia is lost without the hollows and the whippoorwills, can't bear the sun without the cold lick of creek water, the overhanging laurel thicket. Still, there are things to love about a place we've spent too long in. The fine, light soil of the garden, the small stand of pines on the corner, now so tall, and how the cottonwood leaves sounded like rain. When I came back, I knew I would find rice grass along the barbed wire, morning glories climbing the sagging porch rail, the love that built this place, and the stones that broke it apart. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the beautiful piece. I wanted to ask if Rhonda Pettit happened to join us through this reading. I don't see her on the screen, but I thought I'd give a little shout to see if she made it into our session. I'm not hearing that, so okay. Earlier we heard from Dana Wildsmith, who is now a co-editor with Pine Mountain Sand and Gravel. I'm very excited to work with Dana, and I am introducing now our other new co-editor, Jim Minick. I've known Jim for many years. He's the author of 5 books, most recently, Fire is Your Water, winner of the Best Book Award from the Appalachian Writers Association. It wouldn't surprise me if there's another book already from this bio. The Blueberry Years is his memoir, and it won the Best Nonfiction Book of the Year from Southern Independent Booksellers Association. Jim actually traveled to my campus many years ago to share from that memoir, and the students loved it. His work has appeared in the New York Times, Shenandoah, Orion, Oxford American, and The Sun. Jim Minick.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, especially Sherry, for organizing us, and for all the fellow writers here sharing the stage, and especially for the ASA folks for putting this all together. So thank you. A poem called What Happens to Bulldozers in Heaven. Again, the neighbors didn't pick up the bike, the truck, the scooter, the rake, scattered over their yard. That's not his job, yet there he trawls and kicks through maple leaves, his shuffle off kilter from what? Birth defect or stroke? And he's not even 30. The toys he has to pinch against his hip with knuckle-boned hand, fingers don't work. The neighbor's away, no one to help. Then he climbs on board that space capsule full of noisy silence, engages blade, and launches out into a green heaven where grass becomes a sky swept clean. Round and round, so smooth, no hitch, no stumble. The ship glides through a swirling galaxy he orders, shooting stars all tucked inside his shirt for a moment. Halfway through the flush of leaves, a metallic screech mows the air. That toy he missed, a dozer, buried by the boy. The mower man curses and kicks the leaves to hold the toy, scissored into 2. Thank you all. It's good to be here with you.
What a final image, Jim. Jay Butler is our last reader, and then we may open the floor for a few brief reflections from everyone. A little bit about Jay. He received his BA in History and English with a creative writing concentration from Appalachian State University. He's enrolled in the MFA program in Portland State University, and his work has appeared in Appalachian Heritage and other journals. Jay.
Thanks, Sherry. This poem reflects sadness or depression, maybe, but also hope. And that this whole conference reflects that too, because it gives me hope. Hearing all these speakers this weekend, man, yeah. I have hope for the future. Stratify. How grass grows from soil, soil from rock, rock from magma, magma from a liquid outer, outer from an inner, inner from a solid center core. How glaciers create lines and breaks on pages of mountain faces. How bodies layer themselves from skeleton to skin. How natural disasters spike economic growth. How one capital block is a group hug between modern architecture and a half-empty paper cup of change. Thank you.
I consciously chose Jay's piece for last because of the aerial view that it gives. Such a powerful piece. And I want to say an echo of thanks to all of the people at ASA who have made this possible. It really does give hope. And Rachel, I know you're out there as our producer. I can't even tell you on behalf of all of us how grateful we are for your kind volunteerism. because I know it's a big job. If others are able to join, I'm not sure if that's possible in the way this is being broadcast, but I did want to just take a few minutes perhaps and open the floor if there are outside people who are able to join, or to ask my colleagues if you have reflections on your place inside of Southern Appalachian Writers Cooperative or connections with the journal. I could say from my own vantage point that I told Pauletta Hansel, a dear friend of mine many years ago, that I was not a joiner. She brought this up over and over again. We're talking a couple of decades ago, and I don't like literary prancing at all. So I didn't come to Highlanders Gathering for years. And then when I came, I discovered an amazing family of regional authors. So opening the floor.
And this is Pauletta. So glad we wore you down, Sherry, to have you join us.
I didn't know I was talking about you when you were out there, Pauletta.
Great reading, everybody. I really appreciated hearing these words brought to life. So thank you.
And any of you are welcome to unmute if you have reflections to share, or if there are folks out there with questions about Pine Mountain Sand and Gravel. We have our wonderful former managing editor with us too. So
And I will just say I did put in the links for you guys, since I was able just to sit quietly and listen. I did put in the links, or in the chat, the links to find out more about Pine Mountain Sand and Gravel, including how to order this beautiful issue, and then also the link to the submission guidelines, because the submission deadline is April 15th, so it's coming right up.
Right along with taxes.
And Sherry, maybe it would be good to say something about the gathering in October at Highlander, since you've mentioned it. So they'd say a little more.
Yes, if you head down south, if you're up north towards Strawberry Plains, Tennessee, and Newmarket, Tennessee, nearby, you can gather at the Highlander Center, which is a wonderful historic place. Rosa Parks once stayed there after, a terrible national turmoil. She's been there more than once. The whole thing is built around her amazing legacy. But we gather together there. We bring our best literary spirit and sit in rocking chairs in a circle to contemplate our writing. We listen carefully to one another's work, offer some feedback, eat great food, build bonfires. We talk about the literary journal too at the end of the weekend and what themes might come next. But it's one of the most sincere gatherings of literary care that I've ever experienced. And I always leave exhausted and refreshed. A paradox, I know. We hope to have it on the ground this October. I realize all of these things are still somewhat uncertain. But if you're interested, please reach out either through the Pine Mountain Sand and Gravel access, or you're welcome to reach out to me at Thomas More University. I won't speak my email now, since it's so easy to just Google my name and the name of the university or the journal. And I'll be glad to tell you a little bit more about that. There's a description also inside of the journal.
And Pauletta just put the link to the to SAWC online at the chat. So, yeah.
Thank you, Pauletta. I hesitated to ask for that kind of help, knowing that this would be a technological wonder, and here you are doing that for us. And I specifically didn't ask you. I thought I'd give you a rest from all those things, and I'm so grateful.
Sherry, I have a question, since we were just talking about sort of origin stories. Could you just tell me about Pine Mountain Sand and Gravel and sort of the origin of that name, where it came from and why it is?
I'll invite Pauletta to chime in too, since she is one of the early members. But I'm holding up here a Pine Mountain Sand and Gravel Company image that we put inside of every single journal, and I will flip here.
And while Sherry's looking, I'll also just say that our founding editors back in the mid-1980s, and I can't be more specific than that because we weren't keeping very good records those days, were Jim Webb and Rob Webb, who unfortunately are both are both no longer with us. Jim lived on the old Pine Mountain Sand and Gravel, literally, the old place, the old quarry, and created a resort there. Some of you might have heard of Wiley's Last Resort, but he named the journal after the place, and it has served as a great source of metaphorical inspiration ever since. Our anthology was called Cory, our first anthology of the first 3 decades of Pine Mountain Sand and Gravel.
A lot of folks do, back in the day, stayed with Jim at Wiley's Last Resort. I'm sad I never got there all those years and never got there to see the plastic flamingos and the bonfire pits and the camping sites and Jim's trailer. But Jim Webb was certainly a mover and a shaker in this region around the literature, and we're really grateful to all of his legacy.
Oh, that's great to hear.
Any other questions or offerings, reflections? Well, we're getting close to time, so once again, on behalf of all of the authors in this journal, we're very grateful to the Appalachian Studies Association, because I mentioned I wasn't a joiner. That is one other organization I am more than willing to join. I have never in my life experienced such interdisciplinary authenticity. So a shout out to all of you who are administrating and making ASA stay vibrant during these hard times. And then I did want to say, and I mean this very humbly, I am so grateful for my brother and sister authors in this group, and Pauletta, since I know you're out there too. I feel so honored to have been, someone said earlier in the session, herding cats. Not at all. We came together in great force to share our love of language and storytelling. So my day has begun well. Truly has. Just want to say thank you and farewell.
Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you.
Adios.
Thank you, Sherry.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. It was marvelous to hear you all.